tickets by adding Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports for just €30 a month for 6 months. That's better than half price. Be part of every game with Virgin Media. It's playtime.
6-month offer, €74 a month after offer. T's and C's apply. See virginmedia.ie.
Is your home or motor insurance up for renewal? Now is the time to check if your policy still offers you the right cover and the right fit at the right price. To be sure you're getting the best deal, take this opportunity to shop around. It's easier than you think. Simply contact your insurer or broker today. Remember, don't just renew, review. For more information, visit understandinginsurance.ie. Brought to you by Insurance Ireland.
Bosch, appliances you can rely on. For peace of mind, choose from Bosch's 5-year warranty range of home appliances. For more information, go to paracity.ie. T's and C's apply.
In the Irish Times weekend, US correspondent Martin Wall reports on Donald Trump's latest legal battle, his plans for his defence and retaking the White House. In Ticket, Hollywood veteran Harrison Ford talks to Donald Clark about reprising the role of Indiana Jones. While in sport, ahead of an historic World Cup, Karen Duggan recalls the players' united stand against the FAI in 2017 and how the power of unity could be embraced by other teams. And there's another chance to win €1,000 in our summer giveaway. Buy in store or get it delivered to your door. The Irish Times, because you get it. T's and C's apply.
It started out with a tremor. Everyday routine things I can no longer do. I have difficulty walking and my speech is impaired. My name is Caleb Sheehan and I have motor neuron disease.
Peter O'Mahony here. This June, stay silent for an hour or a day to experience what it's like to lose your voice, all while supporting Voice for MND. Visit imnda.ie for more.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
This is Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk. John Duggan with you through to 5. Now remember folks, as you're binging on sport this weekend, pick out your best performance of the weekend, whether it's a player, manager, even the ref. Tune into OTB's Instagram page tomorrow evening, Sunday. Leave your selection in the comments under our performance rankings post. If your selection matches our top pick live on Monday's OTB AM, you're with the chance then of winning a Gillette Labs exfoliating razor, skin guard shaving gel and a refill blades pack. That is the Gillette Labs performance rankings for an effortless finish to your day. Now, time to look ahead to this weekend's Gaelic football action. We're joined on the line by the former Galway captain, Finian Hanley, and the ex-Mayo All-Ireland winner, Cora Staunton. Finian and Cora, how are you?
Not too bad, John. How are you?
Good to talk to you both. Finian, are you there?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, good, John. Yeah, great. Yeah.
Great to talk to you both. Any questions or comments, folks, you can text us on 53106 at a cost of 30 cents. We're streaming the conversation as well. You can listen on News Talk, watch us on the Off the Ball digital and social channels, on Twitter, at Off the Ball, YouTube and on Facebook. Let's just go through the fixtures first of all, because there's so many of them. Group 4 of the Football Championship, Clare Derry in Pearse Park at 6 this evening, Donegal Monaghan in that group, and Omagh at 6. Talton Cup today, Limerick Laois in the Gaelic Grounds at 3, Meath Wexford and Navan at 4, Cavan Down and Breffni Park at 5:15. Then tomorrow, Group 1 of the All-Ireland Series round robin, the final matches. Kerry Louth at O'Moore Park at 2. At the same time, Cork Mayo at the Gaelic Grounds at 2. In Group 2, Armagh, Galway and Carrick and Shannon at 4. At the same time, Westmeath, Tyrone at Breffni Park. And Group 3, Dublin Sligo at Breffni Park 1:45, with Kildare Roscommon meeting in O'Connor Park at 1:45 as well. Antrim against Carlow in the Talton Cup tomorrow at Corrigan Park from 1 o'clock. So this is the last weekend of, I would call, the fog in the Men's Senior Football Championship of the All-Ireland Series. By the end of tomorrow, we'll have had 24 games to reduce a 16-team format to a 12-team format. Finian, can you see through the fog?
Jesus, it's you wouldn't land a plane in it anyhow, John, to be honest. It's been a bit of bluster for the last few weeks, to be honest. Kind of, you don't want to say nothing games, but look, we're always going to end up in this position where we're kind of going to reach probably the best 8. Maybe one out of the pack might jump in, but we're going to be there and thereabouts in the end. You know, a lot of games for eliminating a short amount of teams, and there's no point in overly going into it. I think it's been talked to death online and in media circles. So look, it's something they have to look at for next year, but there may be a bit of interest this weekend. Galway Armagh has a bit of interest to it. Cork and Mayo maybe might bring something. Cork might bring some edge there and might set up defensively, and Mayo might struggle against that. You don't know, but other than that, it's pretty much straightforward. I think it's the points difference and the likes of the Dubs, will they rack up a big score to go straight through to the quarterfinals. But it's been much ado about nothing for the last while, and hopefully we'll get something interesting this weekend.
Will be one of the implications though, Finian, is say if Galway win tomorrow against Armagh, you'll have a week off. Will an extra week's rest be hugely advantageous, or could it be a case that teams that have been spluttering a bit might get a bit of a head of steam?
It's a good question, John. I think, in the past, they talked about the old backdoor system. The likes of Tyrone went into round one of the qualifiers on a few occasions, and they got up ahead of steam with a couple of nice draws. But I don't think there's enough time for that now. I think with the way the game has gone and how tactically it's gone, minutes on the training pitch, walking through systems and making sure that everyone is fully aware from 1 to 30, not just 1 to 15, but the guys that are coming into the 26, that they can come on and seamlessly strap in. There won't be much training per se, but it'll be tactical. And I think actually the week off will be more beneficial than what we'll say the running games was a couple of years ago. So I think Dublin, Galway, these sort of teams will want to go straight through to the quarters and fine-tune, get bodies rested, get the top players back, and really fine-tune on the, in the video room really is where they'll do a lot of their work over the next 2 weeks.
It appears Louth, Westmeath and perhaps Sligo will join Clare, not making the preliminary quarterfinals next weekend. Cora, what have you made of this format so far? What have you learned, I suppose, from observing what's gone on?
Yeah, I don't think there's a huge amount to be learned. The format, while there's been a lot of talk about it, I think it's been relatively okay. There is a lot of games to just eliminate 4 teams, but there's the talk about should it be only the top 2 that goes through and not the 3rd team, and it'll be knocked out. I think generally, if you look at this new championship format, it hasn't been too bad. The thing I'd say is you're probably better off to go to the top 2 to go straight in and probably knock out the prelim quarterfinals. But I think it's been a learning curve, not just for obviously the GAA themselves, but I think for teams, when they should peak, how important provincial finals are. We're nearly like in 3 different competitions at this stage. Take out the National League, which you have your provincial, then you have the group stages of the All-Ireland Championship, and then your 3rd stage then is, the quarterfinals on. So I don't think we're going to get a proper read on it till the whole thing is done and dusted, and we see who all Ireland champions are. But I think teams are just finding their way through it. Really putting a lot of emphasis on winning their first match, because if you win your first match, you're more than likely in the top 3 in your group, and then after that, it's win 2nd and 3rd to try and top the group. And I do think the benefit of topping the group is probably going to be big. And again, we're not going to know that till we go further down the line. But the teams at the week off, as Finian said, is probably going to be advantageous. Especially when you have teams like Armagh, who have already played 7 championship games already, compared to teams like Mayo who've just played the 4. So I do think that thing of having a week off and will be a benefit, even though there is momentum going in. You really wouldn't want to be finishing your group game on a loss. You don't want to be, especially teams like Mayo. They don't want to be finishing on a loss. They want to keep going. Dublin the same. You just kind of want to build that momentum going through. But overall, it's a pass mark on how it's been run. But I do think there will be adaptations going forward into next year's championship.
Well, you'd hope so. I mean, in my view, I just think I don't like the format at all. I think it's just too convoluted. There's no jeopardy until we're going to have 6 brilliant weeks of GAA from next weekend. But until then, it's been a completely phony war. Because with Mayo, for example, Cora, they'd put out the best performance so far of the championship in beating Kerry. Then they scrape past Louth. So which is the real Mayo?
Yeah, well, I think that's hard to tell. I think Limerick on Sunday will probably give us a better idea which Mayo we're at. I don't still think it'll give us, the best Mayo, but I do think it'll tell us a little bit more where they're at, and obviously building into quarter final. But I think for the likes of Mayo, when they'd seen the group that they were in at the start of the All Ireland series, and they'd have seen they're in a group with Kerry, and they had to go down to Fitzgerald Stadium, possibly to top the group. I think that was their probably match that they definitely targeted going in, and they won that, and it probably gives them a little bit of breathing room. Kevin McStay want them to go down and put in a big performance tomorrow. The main thing was that he'll want to get the 2 points and top the group and give them that week off, weekend off, whether it's to get players right back from injury or to look what you're going to have going forward, where if they lost to Cork tomorrow and score difference allowed Kerry to top the group, say they give Louth a good beating, well then, that's a negative way for Mayo to go into possibly a prelim quarter-final, even in quarter-final. You do want in on a loss. You want to have that momentum going through. So, yeah, I don't know what the real Mayo is. I don't know what the real Dublin is. I don't know what the real Kerry is. As I said, there's no one really putting their hand up as major All-Ireland contenders at the moment in time. Probably Galway are the ones that have been the most balanced right throughout league and championship, but at the same time, they're still not peaking anywhere near where they can be.
We're glad we all know who we all are, Cora. I suppose we all, Finian, myself, yourself, we all know who we are. I suppose if the counties don't know where they are. Like, you're talking about the video room there, Finian. Like, how much of that is done now, and how beneficial and advantageous is it to players? Are they given like specific clips of individually, or is it done more on a collective basis?
Yeah, I suppose when I was finishing up, it was becoming a kind of a lot of your physical training was done in the spring, we'll say, where you were getting the lungs up and you'd be playing matches and all that sort of stuff and training. But once it came into the summer, and I think it's even more so now, I'd say, for a lot of teams, the Galways, the Dublins, they're taking, probably like a job on a Saturday where they're probably in at 9 o'clock and they're doing some training, but then they'll go in and watch video and go through, different shapes. And I know some teams then are even bringing in drones to show positioning on the training field and where guys need to be, because it's quite rigid now that you can nearly pick a spot on the pitch where you need to be in a game, and regardless of how the play is going, you'll need to find that. And when they're in the video room, there could be an hour, 2 hours going through all this, and particularly when you're either defending in a group or you're attacking in a group, one player can open up an attack, open up a defence, and one player out of position can leave yourself open at the back as well. So they'll be fine-tuning all that. So I don't think there'll be much physical work, John, over the next couple of weeks with all the games. I think a lot of it will be walkthroughs, quite a pain for the second 15, we'll call them, where they kind of spend a lot more time kind of watching what is happening and the first 15 walking through. But the physicality and all the physical training is done at this stage. A lot of it will be done in the collective, and I presume they can all get into their phones and into their huddles and all these sort of apps that they have to see individuals, opposition, see their own clips, where they need to be. And that's the level of detail it's at now. And there's no going back from that. And, people are coming up with different ideas. There's GPS, there's all sorts of stuff happening. So over the next couple of weeks, it'll be more about that, the video analysis side of it than it will be anything to do on the training pitch.
Will there be niggle between Galway and Armagh after last year, Finian?
There will, John. I hope there is. Look, the league match, we kind of robbed them up in Armagh in the end, with a goal or whatever. So, and that was quite tight as well. I know Armagh were quite defensive and Galway were quite defensive. So I hope it's not a case that both teams mirror each other and it's a damn squib. But I think after last year, they've played each other a lot of times over the last while, John, to be honest. And I think after last year, where did Armagh get the results in the end? Long high ball into the full back line. Will they target our full back line? Isn't the tallest. Will they target that again? They might look at our goalie and say maybe under the high ball there's been a couple of mistakes this year. Can we get at them that way? So that would make for a real interesting game. Now, obviously, Park McDermott is tight. There's 9,000 people. It's going to be packed out. It'll be quite intense at the beginning, but it'll be interesting to see how Armagh go about this game, because they know Galway a lot better now. There's nothing between the teams, really. Galway slightly more settled on their system, but I think, Armagh can trouble Galway if they really go at them, and it'll be interesting to see what Murnan and Turbot and these guys, will they start raining balls down on the full back line. But you would hope for a bit of needle, maybe, on the sideline stacked with personalities as well. So you would hope for at least a bit of crack to shine a light on the last couple of games.
Brian O'Neill obviously absent, and the other game in that group, Finian, Tyrone, Westmeath. Westmeath they've done themselves proud, haven't they? After winning the Charlton Cup, it was thereabouts for a while against Galway. They pushed Armagh very close. They're capable of beating Tyrone, unlikely but capable.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. They're, look, they've got some good players. They were there. I think we spoke about this 2 weeks ago. They were there with Galway, up to 40 minutes, 45 minutes. But I think that's when the big teams kind of come to the fore. And I think Galway's subs bench, John Maher, Damien Comer came on, and that's the big difference, really. It's from 15 to 20 that, with the quality of the top teams, that's where you pull away. I think a lot of games have been even for the first 45 minutes. Westmeath have done really well, and it just kind of shows the carrot that winning the Tailteann Cup can be, that you guarantee yourself into the All-Ireland next year. You can take, maybe look at the league differently, and I think Westmeath did that. So credit to them, and Desi Dolan, they've stood up. They could have beaten Armagh. They haven't, thrown in the towel. They'll have a right cut tomorrow, but I think tomorrow's all about watching what this Tyrone team are and what they want to be this year. The two Canavans are starting, which I suppose everyone is really, really excited to see how that goes, because that could, could be early doors for them, or it could absolutely turn into 5 years of brilliance for Tyrone and for everyone to watch. Like, these guys are unbelievable footballers, so I'm really excited to see how they play together and how they fit in with McCurry, and Hart and these guys. Tyrone are coming good, I think, John, to be honest. Their midfield is as strong as any in the country, and with the forwards they pick tomorrow, it's really exciting. Whether those forwards will get to stay up the pitch enough to have a huge impact remains to be seen, but I think Tyrone will win, probably by 5 or 6, but no, Westmeath have done themselves proud, and the Tailteann Cup proud.
Cork have done well. Like, they beat Louth narrowly, but they really put it up to Kerry the last day, Páirc Uí Chaoimh. So does that give you a little bit of concern going into tomorrow's game from a Mayo perspective?
Yeah, I think it does. I think you never know what Cork team are going to turn up. That's probably the biggest worry for Mayo going in. They're probably not sure what they're going to come up against. I was in Navan to watch Cork live. There was parts of that match I was really impressed with Cork, and parts that I just thought Cork was so poor. They bet loud on that evening by 2 points, but they could have easily lost the game. So a lot with Cork relies on how Brian Hurley plays in that forward line. If he's firing, Cork are normally firing big against Louth. He was excellent. Stephen Sherlock come on as well, and he was excellent when he came on. So a lot relies there. I think if Mayo can nullify that threat up front, and you'd imagine with the calibre defenders that they have there, they'll be able to. But yeah, Kevin McStay will be a little bit worried, especially after performance against Louth. How they'll go, and they'll target a big performance, as I said, to guarantee that spot, that number one spot in Group One. Also, to be going in with a big performance into whether it's a quarter final or a prelim, they'll be hoping it's a quarter final. But they'll want a performance, especially after how they performed against Louth for a large majority of the game. It wasn't the Mayo that he wants, and the way they performed. So I think Cork will be Cork, but I do see that Mayo will come out on top in that game.
What about Kerry then, Finian? We will learn, I think, more as the championship goes on if they do beat Louth tomorrow. But there seems to be something missing so far with the Kingdom. Doesn't seem to be all very happy.
No, it's a funny one really, because Kerry are, by nature the aristocrats. They write the script when it comes to playing football and playing it well and playing a attractive brand of football. Slight tweak last year, obviously Paddy Tally went down. They got more rugged, got more defensive. Absolutely closed up shop at times and things like that. And it's funny because the mob is fickle in a lot of these traditional counties, particularly Kerry. And if your team isn't playing well or playing a nice brand of football and they're losing, then it can be a little bit of uneasiness can happen. And I think Kerry is, given that they won the All-Ireland last year, is brilliant, but they need to back it up. And all the talk in Kerry over the last number of years was obviously winning an All-Ireland, but it's what you do the year after is more important than what you do the year you win your first one. So it is a bit uneasy. Obviously Clifford is still carrying the can there, and as I think it was Paul Flynn or someone said last week, he can win an All-Ireland on his own because of his ability, but they need a bit more from the supporting cast. I think up front, they've tried to pick players, newer players, Tony Brosnans and these guys, Killian Spillans, but they're back with Caney, they're back with these guys, Darren Moynihan again. So Jack O'Connor seems to be going for the tried and trusted, and the other guys don't seem to be breaking into that starting 15. Now, I know obviously it's important to have a very strong bench as well, but I just wonder about Kerry. Have they got the gut for it to go all the way this year again? I haven't seen it yet. Now, look, they have the players to up it in the quarter final, and if they're timing the run, it's the most genius managerial move in a long, long time, because they haven't shown anything to date that would say that they can be All-Ireland champions this year. But look, there's loads of footballers in that team. if they shake off the tiredness and Clifford, the two Cliffords get their mojo, then they can destroy most teams, bar the maybe 2 or 3. So I do sense a little bit of uneasiness though, John. I don't think it's all right there. I think maybe there could be a style issue and things like that going on down there, but that remains to be seen.
We're talking to Finian Hanley and Cora Staunton about Gaelic football. Roscommon, maybe one of these teams that could take a scalp. Cora, they're going to go through. It's probably likely Dublin will be ahead of them on points difference by tomorrow evening. Dublin playing Sligo, Roscommon taking on Kildare. Davy Burke was kind of giving out about the advanced mark. Was he right? Obviously, you know all about marks given your work down in the Australia and rules.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it since the rule came in. I'd say he's probably right. I just don't think it adds to the game. I think it's just a very soft way of getting the American side the game, and it adds value to the game at all. But no, I think Davy Burke, I think if you're to look at any story of the championship so far, or any team, I think Roscommon are the team that has impressed the most. Even though they lost the Connacht championship to Galway, been really impressive. I think they've obviously beaten Mayo in a Connacht semi-final and done really well against them. They've drew with the Dubs and obviously played Sligo and played very well against them, and that's all on their back of their doing very well in Division 1, obviously safe and not being far away from a Division 1 final. So I think he's done a massive job down there. Yeah, they're probably going to miss out in top spot just on the basis that will beat Sligo. They'll have an easier game than Roscommon will against Kildare. That third spot in that group is all up for it. It's Sligo are on -10, Kildare on -9. So that third spot is really, really, really tight. So you'd imagine the likes of Sligo are going to try and hold Dublin as much as they can at bay, because even if they don't beat them, they'll want their scoring difference to be kept as low as they can. And Kildare will obviously be pushing to beat Roscommon, and if not, if it's as close as it can be. So yeah, I just think huge credit has to go to Davy Burke. I think he's done a massive job with that Roscommon team. I think for them, they'll obviously get a prelim quarter final. They'll be pushing to win that and seeing can they test themselves against the bigger teams in a quarter final. But yeah, they're certainly a team that people won't want to do in a prelim, or if they get to a quarter final. So they've done massive work. I do think that Dublin will beat Sligo, and I think Roscommon will get over Kildare, because while Kildare early days in their Leinster semi-final against Dublin were, that was probably their best match. They've been very poor outside of that one match. So I think they'll struggle against a Roscommon team that's very up and coming.
And Cora, Dublin have been slick at times, but also ordinary at times by their standards.
Yeah, it's again, they're a bit like Kerry. It's very hard to know what to make of them. I think a lot of it's kind of based on what we've seen in the past, that we're waiting for them to come. Obviously with the big names back, Jack Mack's back, even for tomorrow, Owen Merchant's back. They've been mixing and matching with their team. Kieran Kilkenny is on the bench for tomorrow, so they've had the big guns back, Paul Mangan, but just to have him fired, just bar that Leinster final against Louth, they haven't really fired all day. Their league final against Derry, while they won that well, they only put, I think it was like 4-7 up in that game. So yeah, we're probably still waiting to see where they're really at. They're a very interesting watch. They probably will get top spot in the group, so they'll have the week off. And I think it's from a quarter final onwards, we're probably going to see where the right Dublin are at. But I would be a little bit worried that they haven't been firing. They've been very up and down, and they just haven't seemed to got that right mix. There's still a little bit of concern about that their back line, and the players that they've lost, they haven't replaced them with the same calibre. So while they have all the firepower up front, they still haven't been firing on all cylinders and have struggled at times. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I don't think you're going to see, like Kerry, you're probably not going to see the real Dublin unless they get a difficult quarter final or possibly even a semi-final. I don't think you're going to see the real Dublin or Kerry till that stage.
Finian, where would you assess these three Ulster teams that are going through tomorrow, or this evening actually? Derry, Monaghan, Donegal, where they're at now?
Yeah, Derry are still obviously there and thereabouts. I think Derry can frustrate the life out of anyone on their day, and probably can roll over the line against even Dublin, Kerry, Galway if they get their, if they get that bit of luck that they might need, given the way they set up. No one will want to play Derry because of their style, and their style is so, it's completely rigid at the back, but they're so unpredictable up front. They've got a lot of different types of plays that they can throw at you. So we'll say Kerry, Dublin, Galway will not want to play Derry, and I still see Derry as a threat. They've been through a lot this year, and they haven't shot the lights out yet, but I still see them as, been up there, maybe not top 3, but 4 or 5 potentially. Donegal and Monaghan. Monaghan have done incredibly well this year, obviously, again, staying up in the league, which, that they do time and time again, and obviously they've bedded in nicely to the group stages as well. So I think they'll have a little bit too much tonight for Donegal. It kind of depends as well on what McBrearty's like after coming back after a long injury. It'd be nice to see McBrearty and Gallen up front, and I think they've missed obviously McBrearty over the last while, and people kind of underestimate a huge loss of that type of player to a team, and Donegal have taken a lot of slack. But when you look at the calibre of player that they've missed in McBrearty, then they've really struggled. But I think Monaghan are really, really good at the minute. I fancy them to beat Donegal and really have a good cut at whoever they meet after that, because like up front they're they've McCarron starting, but they've got Mohan, Kerry, Bannigan, O'Hanlon, a lot of pace there, and I've seen them in Pearse Stadium this year. They were a lot of pace all over the pitch, and that's troublesome for any defence. So and then you've got the bench, McManus and the Hugheses, so they have a nice balance. I wouldn't be writing Monaghan off, but I in the overall, but I think Donegal, I think this will be kind of preliminary quarter-final will be the end for them, and they'll start building next year.
Cora, the Ladies' Championship upon us, Dublin Kerry, that's a great way to start today.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one as well. Obviously Kerry had a poor Munster final, were favourites going into that, loss to Cork, and had a really poor first half, a lot better second half, but after their league final win, you'd expect them to have beaten Cork. So yeah, you'd imagine there'd be a kickback from the Munster final. Obviously Dublin then beat Meath in the Leinster final. It's going to be an intriguing battle, very hard one to call, but I think if Kerry have aspirations of getting one step further than they did last year, they're going to have to come out with a big performance today, and I do think that they'll pip Dublin just about. We've
got this item on OTB AM, our breakfast show, Cora, called the Power Rankings. Tommy Rooney has been marshalling it expertly of late. So what are your power rankings, if we're going to steal the phrase, your top 5, say, for the Ladies Football Championship this year?
Yeah, I've seen Tommy's power rankings. All right, he's got a bit of stick over them, but yeah, if I was to call it at this moment in time, I think it's Kerry 1. I think it's I think it's Cork 2. I think it's Dublin 3, Mayo 4. Probably Galway, Meath 5, 6 in that regard. Now, in saying that, Meath have just had a change in management, and all word on the street is that a lot of their backroom team who are involved with the Meath men, Eugene Ivers and Paul Garrigy, they're both back, so that could put them up in the power rankings, but I probably need to see if that's the case. But yeah, I think if you're to look at the moment, probably Kerry, Cork are probably my top 2, and I've said it all year, Kerry are probably my favourites. But yeah, they disappointed me in the Munster final, but I think there will be a kickback, and I think there's a little bit of a psychological barrier when they come up against Cork.
And there's a shift in what we've seen in the landscape, because in the recent 5 to 6 years, Dublin and Meath have been the dominant teams in ladies football.
Yeah, there's been a recent shift. Obviously it was Cork, the Cork era, then the Dublin era, now the Meath era. But yeah, I just think Meath have probably lost a few girls that through injury and that's gone travelling, and new change of management. I just think it'll be a huge ask for them to go for 3 in a row. And I think teams have came up to their level, and especially the likes of, as I said, Kerry. I think there's Cork are coming again after a number of years of underage success. I think Mayo's performance in the Connacht final and probably the last year or so has seen them move up the rankings as well. So I think it's wide open, John. I think if you could put money on any probably 5 or 6, and you wouldn't say, oh, that's a huge surprise. I really think there's probably 6 or 7 teams in the mix that see themselves as genuine All-Ireland contenders. So yeah, it's going to be a great championship to watch, and it's very difficult to call. That's me saying Kerry, but it's a very difficult one to call, because I do think it could be any of one of probably 6 or 7 teams.
53106 Noel has been in touch from Dublin to say the mark will eventually be exposed for what it is, a ridiculous award of a point for simply catching a ball when the All-Ireland final is decided by 1. Finian, also good to see the Tailteann Cup now reach the quarter-final stage. Maybe Meath are favourites. Meath, Cavan might be up the top of the rankings, but Wexford have been doing well of late. They take on Meath this weekend. Yeah,
the last weekend was great, brilliant for the Tailteann Cup. Saw some of the games, but like the likes of Wexford winning, like Carlow over there was a lot of. I think a lot of the underdogs won last weekend or in the last round, which is brilliant for the competition because it's a lot easier for we'd say, if we look at 3 tiers, we look at in the whole, the third tier to beat the second tier is a lot easier than the second tier to beat the first tier. So it's great. There's carrots there for the Waterfords, the Wicklows to go and take scalps, and obviously Meath. I think Cavan have the bit between their teeth. I think a lot of the lads stayed around. They were very disappointed after the Armagh. They're seeing what Armagh are doing, and they probably felt they could have won that. But look, I think Cavan and Meath would be a fantastic final, given their neighbours, and there's no love lost there. And I think the likes of Colm O'Rourke, Mickey Graham, two seasoned footballing campaigners would go toe to toe. I think it'll be fantastic. But I do see Cavan and Meath as the front runners. Down can cause a bit of trouble, but Cavan should just have too much for them.
Finian Hanley, Cora Staunton, thank you so much for your time and off the ball here to look ahead to the weekend's football. Mind yourselves.
Cheers, John.
Thanks a million. Take care.
Okay, let you know, in the Ladies Football Championship, Donegal 1-6, Waterford 1-2 at half-time. The first game of the day. We're back after 2 with Kieran Donaghy. We had Finian Hanley, the Galway view. We're going to have an Armagh... Well, he's not an Armagh native, but he's a Kerry man in Armagh, helping out Armagh and Kieran McGinney. Kieran Donaghy coming up after this break.
Listen to News Talk on Smart Speaker. Play News Talk.
News Talk. Conversation that counts.
Hi, I'm Ken.